The sun filtered through the Bodhi tree's leaves, casting dappled shadows as Buddha gathered his disciples in tranquil silence. He began, "Many of you seek solutions far from yourselves, searching endlessly outside your minds and hearts for understanding and peace." The disciples leaned forward, listening intently. His voice was steady, each word carrying both weight and clarity. The Buddha continued, "Let me tell you about a man named Suddha who sought the answer to his suffering everywhere. Suddha traveled across villages, mountains, and rivers, visiting sages and scholars who promised enlightenment in exchange for devotion and offerings. He fasted with ascetics, listened to priests, and even climbed treacherous paths to reach hermits on distant peaks. But each answer Suddha found, each piece of wisdom he received, only added more questions, leaving him restless and unfulfilled." The disciples exchanged glances, feeling the resonance of this story in their own lives. The Buddha's voice softened yet grew sharper. One day, Suddha met an old monk meditating by a stream. He asked, "Why do you appear content, Master?" The monk opened his eyes, their gaze deep as the universe, and asked Suddha, "Why do you seek so tirelessly?" Suddha replied, "I suffer within. I seek truths to quiet the turmoil in my heart. I search for peace." The Buddha paused, his silence inviting reflection. Disciples whispered to each other briefly but then fell quiet again, awaiting his words. The Buddha resumed. The monk smiled and responded, "Have you looked within yourself? Or do you only gaze outward for your answers?" This question troubled Suddha, for he realized he had spent his life chasing what others claimed was wisdom and solace. "Suddha," asked the monk, "how can one find peace within? I see only chaos when I turn my thoughts inward." The Buddha's eyes swept across his disciples, reaching their hearts with their warmth. He continued the tale with deliberate intensity. The monk said, "Come, sit beneath this tree and quiet your mind. Let your thoughts wander but do not chase them." Suddha was skeptical yet intrigued. He sat down, letting the soft murmurs of the stream blend with his restless thoughts. At first, his mind rebelled. Questions and doubts arose like tempest winds, urging him to stand and leave. But he stayed, breathing deeply and surrendering to the storm inside, watching the flow of thoughts as if observing clouds. The Buddha's tone grew even gentler, encouraging the disciples to visualize the moment through his words. Minutes became hours as Suddha's thoughts settled like dust after windstorms, leaving an unfamiliar stillness in their wake. In the silence, he felt a tender seed sprout deep within, a seed not planted by others, but birthed from inner soil. This seed was peace, faint yet undeniable, unshaken by questions, unaffected by the stream's ripples or whispers of doubt. The Buddha let his words linger, sensing their impact on the disciples' minds as they wrestled with inner reflections. Suddha returned to the old monk, eyes alight not with answers, but with an awakening to the power within himself. He said, "I understand now. Peace cannot be given or taken. It grows within when nurtured through patience and self-awareness." The monk smiled. "You have learned, young seeker. Wisdom lies in silence, not in the pursuit of noise and external truth." The Buddha's gaze rested briefly on each disciple, pausing for moments to connect deeply before continuing his discourse. "You see, my friends, we often chase truths we believe others possess, blaming life's storms for our restlessness and pain. But peace, clarity, and truth are not treasures to be unearthed. They are seeds within us, cultivated through self-discovery. When you meditate, listen not for my teachings alone, nor for streams of wisdom pouring from external masters. Instead, let the moments between my words speak to you. Let silence teach as deeply as my voice does. The space within you is like the vast sky. Clouds may pass, storms may rage, but the sky remains unchanged." Do not fear the chaos within. It is the essence of transformation. The breath of seeds breaking through hardened ground. The disciples sat quietly, each immersed in their own stream of thought, each heart touched by the flow of wisdom shared. The Buddha smiled gently, sensing the ripples he had stirred in their minds. Knowing they would seek not outside but within. The Bodhi tree's leaves swayed, their shadows dancing on the earth, as if celebrating the growth of seeds within the disciples. Another day, under the same vast Bodhi tree, the disciples gathered, their hearts eager for the Buddha's illuminating words. The breeze was soft, carrying the faint scent of blooming flowers. As the Buddha began to address his disciples, "Today," he said, "I shall share with you the story of a young woman who sought fulfillment in the world's eyes." There was a woman named Anala who lived in a grand home, surrounded by riches, adoration, and many companions. He began. She adorned herself with the finest jewels, believing beauty and praise from others would fill the void within her heart. Each morning, Anala gazed into her mirror, seeking validation, hoping the reflection would show someone entirely content. But the more she sought perfection in her reflection, the deeper the sense of hollowness grew within her soul. The Buddha paused for a moment, allowing the weight of his words to settle gently upon the listening disciples. Anala believed happiness could be found in the admiration of others, in the glittering image she projected to the world. One day, as she wandered the forest, she came across a serene stream, its surface sparkling under the midday sun. She leaned over the water, gazing at her reflection, expecting once again to find solace in her own image. But as she looked closer, Anala saw something unexpected. Her reflection revealed not beauty, but the sorrow in her eyes. The stream seemed to whisper truths to her that her mirror at home had never dared to reveal. The Buddha said softly. She began to weep, her tears rippling the surface of the water, distorting the reflection and spreading her sorrow outward. As she wept, an old fisherwoman appeared, her net slung over her shoulder, her face weathered but warm with kindness. "Why do you cry, child?" asked the fisherwoman, her voice carrying the wisdom of one who had endured life's storms. Anala replied, "I cry because the world cannot give me the joy my heart yearns to feel." The fisherwoman chuckled gently, as if the young woman's despair were a question she had answered countless times before. She handed Anala a pebble and said, "Drop this stone into the stream and watch closely what happens." Anala obeyed, her curiosity sparked by the old woman's mysterious instruction. The pebble sank, creating ripples that danced outward. "Now look again," the fisherwoman said, pointing at the stream. Anala saw her reflection fragmented by the ripples, disjointed and unclear. "Do you see?" said the fisherwoman. "The opinions of others are like ripples, distorting the image you think is real." Anala was struck by this simple yet profound metaphor, her mind beginning to grasp the deeper truth hidden in these words. The Buddha glanced at his disciples, his expression serene yet intent, inviting them to absorb the story's unfolding wisdom. The world's judgments will always disrupt your perception of yourself. True clarity is found not in the stream, but within, he said. Anala returned home changed, her steps lighter, her heart quieter, the old woman's words echoing softly within her mind. She no longer sought validation in her jewels, nor did she hunger for admiration from the crowd of her companions. She began to meditate each morning, no longer gazing into her mirror but instead closing her eyes and turning inward. In stillness, she began to find a peace unshaken by the noise of the world or the mirrors of others' opinions. As days turned into weeks, Anala grew more serene, her happiness blooming not from outside approval, but from inner understanding. The Buddha turned to his disciples, his voice now a gentle stream that carried profound truths to their thirsty hearts. "You see, My friends, the reflections we seek in others' eyes are but illusions, ripples upon the surface of shallow waters. To seek ourselves in these reflections is to chase shadows, forever distracted by ripples that distort the stillness of our being. When you meditate, do not seek clarity in the opinions of others, nor in the fleeting comforts of worldly adornments. Instead, let the world fall away, leaving behind only the unshaken stillness of your inner stream. Your true reflection, he said. Like Anala, you too must look beyond the surface ripples and listen to the silence beneath. Where truth rests undisturbed, the disciples sat in quiet contemplation, the breeze weaving through the trees as if whispering the truths the Buddha had spoken. The leaves above swayed gently, their shadows dappling the earth, as if affirming the silent transformations within the disciples' hearts. Another day, under the serene shelter of the Bodhi tree, the disciples gathered as the sun bathed the earth in light. The Buddha's eyes glimmered with wisdom, his presence grounding them as he began with deliberate and measured words. Tonight, I will share the tale of Rajan, a man whose fear of darkness led him to an unusual reliance. Rajan was a man who carried a lantern everywhere, believing its light was his only source of comfort and safety. He never ventured beyond the glow of the lantern's flame, convinced the darkness concealed dangers lurking beyond his sight. One stormy night, fierce winds extinguished his lantern's light, leaving him in the impenetrable blackness of the forest. Fear gripped him. Trembling, he stumbled and fell, unable to see the ground beneath his feet or the trees ahead. The Buddha paused, letting the story's tension settle as the disciples leaned forward, anticipating what wisdom lay ahead. Rajan sat on the forest floor, consumed by panic, until he noticed faint glimmers of light dancing near him. At first, he doubted his senses, but as his eyes adjusted, he realized the light came from countless fireflies surrounding him. Slowly, Rajan discovered that the world could be seen without the lantern he had relied on for years. His reliance on the lantern, his fear of its absence, had blinded him to the natural light of the fireflies. Rajan walked through the darkness, guided not by his own lantern, but by the world's light and his newly awakened trust. From that night onward, Rajan began to understand that his fear of darkness was rooted in dependency on external sources of light. He reflected on his life and realized that many of his fears stemmed from his reluctance to trust his own senses. The Buddha's voice softened, drawing his disciples into deeper thought, allowing Rajan's lesson to merge with their reflections. We are like Rajan, clinging to external sources of assurance, believing we cannot face life's darkness without external guidance. But the truth is, the lanterns we carry, be they validation, possessions, or teachings, are not the light we truly seek. True illumination comes from trusting the quiet light within, the natural clarity we often overlook in our rush to rely on others. Do not fear the absence of your lantern, for when you let go, you will notice the fireflies already lighting your path. Let go of your attachment to external sources and awaken to the subtle brilliance that resides within your own soul. Fear is the shadow that grows when we mistake dependency for security, chasing what blinds us to our own inner strength. The Buddha's gaze rested on each disciple, his presence stirring them to consider the lanterns they carried in their own lives. You are capable of seeing in life's darkest moments, not through borrowed light, but through the wisdom nurtured within yourselves. Darkness may appear daunting, but when faced, it reveals stars and fireflies, lights we ignore when we cling to fleeting security. Look not at what others carry, nor at what you believe you must hold, for your light exists beyond such illusions. The disciples sat in quiet contemplation, the night enveloping them as the moonlight painted gentle silver strokes across the earth. The shadows of the Bodhi tree danced softly as if echoing the Buddha's words. reminding the disciples of the light within them. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.